You are listening to Viewpoints from PlaceCloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
If you're visiting the city of Recife and want to enjoy an urban landscape that combines modernity and tradition, an appropriate area to visit is the neighbourhood of Casa Forte in the northern part of the city, where you'll find this beautiful square with the same name, designed in the 1930s by the great Brazilian modernist landscaper Roberto Burle Marx. It's a square with contrasting greenery from its frenetic surroundings and two water mirrors, as well as benches where you can sit and admire the surrounding houses. At the back you find the church of Casa Forte. But what the bucolic setting of the square and the church obfuscate in the rubble of time is a battle fought between the Portuguese and the Dutch 4 centuries ago. 15 years into the Dutch occupation of northeastern Brazil from 1645 onwards, the climate between settlers and colonizers became more heated, mainly because of the debts owed by the plantation owners to Dutch creditors linked to the West India Company to finance the cost of sugar production. With the departure of the Dutch Governor-General Maurice de Nassau and no one to intercede on behalf of the colonists, the situation quickly descended into conflict and war. The year 1645 was decisive in favor of the plantation owners and disastrous for the Dutch. This was because important areas were reconquered by the Portuguese restorers, as the Luso-Brazilian leaders interested in expelling the Dutch were referred to. One of them was in the town of Santo Antão, near the capital Recife. It was there, on the so-called Monte das Tabocas, that the first major military confrontation between Luso-Brazilian and Dutch troops took place on the 3rd of August 1645. The victory in that village inspired the name of the place that became a town in the 19th century, taking on the name of Vitória, victory, in honor of the triumph over the Dutch. In the 20th century, the two settlements merged to become the city of Vitória de Santo Antão. Since 1978, Monte das Tabocas has been the Tabocas State Historical Park, although there has been little effort on the part of the local government to make this park attractive to tourists, even though its greenery and historical importance both would warrant exactly that. Back in the 17th century, a second confrontation took place 2 weeks after the Battle of Tabocas, but what makes this second conflict stand out is that the confrontation between the Portuguese and the Dutch began with the kidnapping of wealthy women linked to the families of the plantation owners. On the afternoon of 16 August 1645, Dutch troops invaded the Casa Forte plantation, where the families of some of the restorers lived, and held Isabel de Gois, Maria Luís de Oliveira, and Ana Bezerra, the latter the mother-in-law of João Fernandes Vieira, one of the main Portuguese-Brazilian leaders, prisoner in the plantation's big house. Learning of the kidnapping, her son-in-law, who was the Portuguese commander-in-chief, traveled with the troops to the Engenho, the plantation. When he arrived there on the 17th of August, he sent one of his officers to arrange the release of the women, but the man was shot and died on the spot. Vieira then ordered the bushes around the house to be set on fire, and cornered by the fire and the troops, the Dutch surrendered on condition that they were going to be kept alive. A second defeat for the Dutch, so shortly after the first one. And as the Brazilian civic spirit loves to honor stories, war deeds, and heroic feats, the big house, also once named Nassau, was renamed Casa Forte. The road that ran through the property was renamed Estrada da Batalha, Road of the Battle. In the 1930s, the road was renamed Avenida 17 de Agosto, or the Road of the 17th of August, in memory of the day João Fernandes Vieira freed the noble sugar women. The Dutch suffered further defeats in the following years until they eventually signed a capitulation in Recife in 1654. With the decline of sugar production, the property was eventually allotted and sold as farms to wealthy people who lived in Recife, and so to this day an address in the Casa Forte neighborhood is coveted, representing both wealth and history.